Welcome to a very special Halloween episode of Rough City. Thrilled to have joining us the very talented musician Morgan Weller. What is up?
What's up, dude? How's it going?
Very stoked you could make it. Keith could not make the call time, but he is aware of our interview and he's in anticipation to hear my good friend Morgan here give us some insight on what it's like to be the bass player vocalist in the satanic black metal band Lustravi.
I haven't really done anything with Lustravi in a while. Just because, like life kind of takes weird turns sometimes, and you can't always eventually I'll pick it back up. But right now I'm working on this project called Demonolatress, and it's with two of my girlfriends, and both of them are just super demonic, and I'm really excited about it.
Awesome. Well, let's start at the beginning because you are a very well-versed musician. You're versatile. You've got talents in piano as well as cello, bass, and very good extreme metal vocals.
Thank you.
Let's start at the beginning. How about where are you from originally, and when is the first time you got your hands on an instrument?
So I grew up in the UK, in a town called Newquay in Cornwall, and I moved to the US when I was 13-ish, and I've been playing music since I was 4, and I started.
Wow, that's an early start.
Yeah, I guess I was driving my mom nuts, and she was like, "You got to do something," and so I started out with stringed instruments, violin, and then I fell in love with cello, and just my brother was into metal, and I always had to one up him, so it was just kind of it just escalated,
Were you classically trained, like lessons or anything? I never really asked that.
I was at one point. I don't know that I retained any of that.
Right. So you can't read music?
I can read music. I just kind of suck at things now. It's you put down an instrument for so long and it doesn't come back to you. It's not like riding a bike,
That is true, but I feel there are milestones in that. When I walk away from an instrument for a long time, if I decide to pick it up again, I'm like, oh my God, I remember how I used to love this. It wasn't just the grind, and you kind of, I don't know, for me anyways. You should pick it all back
yeah,
up.
I mean, yeah, it does to a certain extent, but you also get those frustrations where it's damn it, I used to be able to do this, and I don't know, I focused on bass so much that I just sort of forgot everything else.
All right. So, it's surprising to me that if you weren't classically trained, because of what I heard you play on piano, it sounds like you've got the chops for it. But how about this? What was the first metal band that you really got into?
Iron Maiden was my thing. I still to this day, Steve Harris is probably one of my biggest influences as far as bass technique and just how he plays the bass.
Fuck yeah. Oh, I've never gotten to see them live yet. Have you?
I haven't either. You know what's really fucked up? I've got a cousin that is not even into metal, but he went and saw them in Miami and was sending me pictures the entire time. I wanted to choke slam him. You don't deserve this.
Right. Yeah, it was cool. It was cool, I guess. I mean, Jesus. Yeah, Keith. When drummer Keith went to see him, and I remember him telling me years ago, he's like, dude, it was their guitar solo tone is the best guitar sound live I've ever heard in my life. And I'm like, Jesus, I need to see it. I gotta see it one day.
Oh my God, dude. Not only that, but it's just all the theatrics and Bruce has still got it. There's some people from that era that it's watching Grandpa gyrate on stage and it's disturbing.
Yeah. Really, I feel that. I mean, I don't want to knock anybody really, but I have to respond to that because I recently cut my hair a few days ago. I haven't had short hair.
What?
I haven't had short hair in 10 years, but I really felt like the band Anvil. Like after watching after watching that documentary of them at the fish cannery with the long hair, I just felt like, oh Jesus, what? I'm hanging on to the glory days over here.
They contacted me to play at one point. And,
oh my God, really?
Yeah, and I was like, no fucking way. But they wanted like more than I paid for Deicide to be there.
Oh
and I was
God.
like, get the fuck out. No.
I don't blame you, but you're jumping ahead. You're jumping ahead here because yes, you were the proprietor. That's cool. No, dude, it's very loose. We're very loose here at Rep City. But let's go back to how you got into metal and how did you get into your first black metal band? And so actually, I'm skipping ahead too now. Let me just break it down to we went from cello to Iron Maiden. Where were you and how old were you when black metal you first were introduced to, and how did that affect you?
All right, so this is going to be a really weird story. When I moved to the US, I moved to Orlando, which is like basically like Tampa and Orlando area is the birthplace of death metal.
Right. Oh yeah.
And I fell into that crowd like, you know, really easily. Like, you know, I was a weird metal kid, you know, so it was just like, I mean, I was maybe like 13 at the time that I came over here. But like back home in England, like I would, Kerrang.
I'm sorry, say that again. You broke up. I'm sorry. Say that again. You broke up.
Oh, no worries.
At England?
In England, they had this music channel called Kerrang. And it was a lot like back when MTV was actually about music.
Yeah.
Heavy music, like metal and all that. So I would, you know, I already knew all these bands that people were into. So it was really natural for me to fall in with the death metal community there. How I got into black metal, I went to the local Orange County library and they had a bunch of CDs that you could borrow. And I found Storm of the Lightsbane by Dissection.
Yeah. Yes.
At the library. And, you know, I listened to it. You know, I was already into Death and Cannibal Corpse and Obituary and, like, of course, like, all the great, you know, death metal artists and bands and everything. I listened to Storm of the Lightsbane and it was just, like, it just totally changed my life. Like, it changed my whole perspective, like, on...
It is its own color.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and I feel like that album in particular, like, really stands on its own. And I know that, like, there's some, you know, metal, you know, some weirdos that are like, it's melodic, you know, whatever, but I just think it's brilliant.
I know that there's the whole metal scene. Certainly, it's almost a dead meme. I hate even using that phrase. Like, my niece gives me shit for using these modern phrases, but I learned them from her. It's her fault. But it is almost a dead meme. The whole black metal purist, or like the production's nice. Oh,
dude. It actually sounds like music. So it's like, and now I have a soft spot in my heart for like the shitty, like farting into the Fisher Price like tape recorder music. I mean, but you know, I gotta be in the mood for it, you know, and like,
oh yeah,
you can't record a masterpiece like Storm of the Lightsbane in that style, and it just would not translate.
Exactly. It's just why it's a dangerous thing. You know, only Siths use absolutes. You know what? Please stay with me. Don't hang up after I said that. I'm sorry. I'm gonna never use a Star Wars reference again. All right. But no, all right.
As long as you don't say yeet, I think we're good.
All right. Deal. All right. So that's honestly a great album to grab you for black metal. So that kind of tore a whole new black hole for you, I'm sure, of the satanic side. Yeah,
and you know what? Like I after that after I really like researched what dissection was about the Temple of the Black Light, or as it used to be called, the Misanthropic Luciferian Order.
Okay, hold on. Could you explain a little bit what that is for anyone who might not know, like me?
It's basically like theistic Satanism. So, like Levian Satanism would be just like you're an atheist but you have edge to you. Like, Temple of the Black Light is very like, we worship the fucking devil, and every evil entity that we can find, we like it, and we have it work for us, you know. And that is like the super super dumbed down version of that. But as I was like really like looking into that, and you know, I was a kid still, you know, and it really resonated with me, and it really made sense.
This is actually perfect to segue into my next bullet point here. And ironically enough, the day after I contacted you, a friend of mine who listens to the podcast messaged me like, "Hey, would you guys be willing to talk about the whole black metal versus Christianity thing?" And then I was like, I just might have an expert for that. So that's awesome. Dissection was sort of your bridge into that thing. Could you give us some insight? Because we are very curious. What is up with satanic black metal, and why do they hate Christianity so much?
Well, black metal, from the time it was conceived, like from Bathory and Venom, even the first wave stuff, has always been about Satan, and that has the whole black part of that is satanic, and to me, it's not at all black metal without Satan, and I strongly believe that, because it's kind of like what's the fucking point if it's not in line with that. It would be like, you know, doing death metal about, you know, living, you know, and that's kind of stupid. Right. So as far as Christians go, to me, it's like they have their hands in literally everything else. They are in charge of our politics. Like, we don't have much, you know, like you cannot walk down the street, right, you know, especially where we live in the South, you know, like, right, me and you are in like the smack dab of the Bible Belt. And that's right. I cannot openly be a Satanist here, you know? No. And I was very pleased actually to find your spot and to meet you and find that, wow, there's someone here that actually might know possibly, if already as much about metal, possibly more than me, and I was thrilled. But okay, so how does that work? How does the church burnings in Norway and stuff fit into it? Because it was really, I don't know. I'm kind of asking because you're the expert, but like, go ahead. And again, this is my opinion, you know, like take it or leave. A lot of the church burning stuff like had to do with how Varg viewed, you know, Varg and those guys
from Mayhem.
Burzum. Well, I guess he was in Mayhem too. Okay. So a lot of it, I think, like as he puts it, had to do with how the Christians in Norway really like fucked up Norwegian culture and burned down all of their halls of knowledge, like way back in medieval times. Right. The only thing that we really have as far as like Norwegian rights and stuff is by Snorri. Hang on one second. Whoever wrote the Prose Edda, Snorri something.
Right, I'm following.
Basically, like the Christianized version of it, it was like a historical thing just to hold on to that, but they like changed shit just to make it so it was in line with Christianity. And, I think like a lot of us, they just got sick of it. Now I don't condone doing that. And like, they were pretty much kids when all that stuff went down.
Right. So basically it was in a way like a symbolic thing. Like our ancestors were forced into Christianity. And when they had their own pagan or Nordic gods, and they were forced to worship someone else through genocide. So these kids decided, fuck that. We want our culture back. So we're going to burn churches and write songs about it.
Exactly. And now Varg Vikernes is like really into that. And he's very much like, I guess like a border. I mean, he's pretty much a white supremacist. I don't agree with that.
Right.
But that's how he is. And he's like one of the founders of modern black metal as we know it.
Right.
However, that doesn't mean he's not a piece of shit, like.
Sure. I mean, there are some things that, I agree with you, because there's certain things in death metal that I don't necessarily, look, everybody who likes Cannibal Corpse doesn't agree or condone anything that those lyrics say. Obviously.
Sure.
People that are fans of Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees movies don't condone splitting somebody open with an axe. I mean, it's art, it's expression. Sometimes it's also a screaming in your fucking pillow type thing. Like if your country was forced into Christianity and you got something to say about it.
Right, definitely. And that whole thing, it happened back in the 90s and the early 90s too. I think it was like 93 when all of that went down. And I think that there's so much more to black metal than just those couple bands that were involved in that movement in Norway.
Sure.
Like it's much, and I think that it should be looked past that. Now, I believe that black metal should absolutely be militant. It should be offensive. Like it should push buttons.
So you're on tour.
So I was on tour, and I was at this one city that, there's like Antifa stickers like everywhere. Like I saw these people like checking out the truck and like hanging around by the truck, and I was like, we're gonna get our fucking tires slashed here. So it was just like they were not brave enough to like actually confront us because they just don't do that,
Right.
But they were like sharking around our car, and I was just like, we assigned to basically like watch with us and like the other band that we were touring with, where like one person had to be out with the car, like the cars.
When was this?
I mean, a couple of years ago.
Christ.
Can't believe it's been that long.
No doubt. All right. Well, that's okay. Well, how about tour life? What was that like?
Well, it's like you don't get to shower very often.
Yeah, no kidding. So yeah, what was that like being in a van full of dudes?
Oh, we didn't even have a van. We had a Chevy Silverado with the what is it? The suicide doors.
Wow.
Back seat. And like we were like totally living out of it, and I'm telling you what, dude, it gets funky in there.
Yes,
because I use like actual cow blood too.
Oh my god! Oh no! Oh no.
So it's like it's fine for like the first couple days.
So
and
you
then,
had stage blood along with man funk and woman funk, all collective equality in the funk, and and it wasn't movie makeup funk. It was actual fucking. You added another mammal.
Yeah, you know what, and you know it's not too bad for the first couple days, and like we would buy ice like as we go, but it just it's a natural substance, so it starts to rot.
Oh my god! And it's on you.
Yeah, so it starts to like really smell like death, like something that has been rotting for a while.
Jesus Christ! And, that's what we already smelled like on tour, and we're not even. We don't. That was just t-shirts.
So like, I got really good at taking what I called a whore bath. And I would get like leave-in conditioners. It's like I wouldn't be as funky as everybody else. But you know, the blood kind of sticks with you. But so we were in Texas, and this was, you know, we usually, you know, it's either everything's so far away that we have to drive to like the next spot, or like, you know, we're just roughing it and trying to make money.
Oh yeah.
And you know, so showers become like this sacred thing that, you know, it's just like, I imagine, you know, if there was one shower and only one person got to use it, it would end in like somebody getting stabbed, you know?
Oh yeah, dude.
For sure.
Fuck yeah.
And so I was I went into the women's bathroom after we played, and like I took my whore bath in the sink because they had like an actual like nice bathroom there, and it was like the sink was deep, so I could actually like sort of wash my hair, and like I got changed into like you know what you would wear as you're coming out of the shower.
Right.
And so I walk outside. And one of the guitarists from the other band is like, oh, "There's a fucking shower! Holy shit!" And I was like, "Yeah, there's a shower in there." And he is like so excited. You can see him just like lighting up. And he's getting all of his stuff out of their car. Like,
oh, you are so evil.
Happy. Oh, and then like my Jeff comes up and was like, "There's not a shower. She's fucking with you." And he was just heartbroken. And I was like, "Fuck you. Like, really? You're going to come ruin my game?"
Yeah, you got to have something.
I was like, "Okay, Chris, you have to we have to convince Zach, my other guitarist, like that there's a shower." So like, I just walked by him and he's like, "Oh, there's a fucking shower." And I was like, "Yeah, dude, there's a shower. I just took one. It was great."
That is so wrong.
Oh, it gets worse. His stuff was in the very front of the trailer.
Oh no, you had to make him unpack everything. Oh my god.
Yeah, so he unpacked everything, got his bag, and I told him the shower. I gave him directions into the women's bathroom. That's where the shower was. So at that point, I'm sitting at the bar and I'm just watching this happen. He's rolling his suitcase. So he goes into the women's bathroom, and there is like this huge girl with the door open on the pot as he goes in to find out that there's no shower.
That couldn't have worked out better.
Oh, I know.
See, that was probably the highlight of the show.
For me, it was.
Yeah. Oh man,
for like the next 4 days.
Dude, with every piece of gear that he moves, he thinks he's just closer to the hot water awaiting him. Oh,
yeah, I know.
That is so great. See, those are the things. Tour life is totally fucking scummy, and we had a tour very similar. It was called the Grind Your Mind Tour, which was really fitting, and it went through half the country. It was a month long, and God, there was some real gold moments. Like the band, one of the earlier gigs was fucking awful. It was in like New Mexico, and it was a terrible turnout in the middle of the week. and it was so goddamn funny. In the van ahead of ours, one of the headliners, Embryonic Devourment, they were having a fight, and you just all of a sudden hear this voice scream so loud out of this van, "Just shut the fuck up! I'm fucking sick of it." He ended it with, "This is a rough tour for everybody," and we just were holding our stomachs laughing at that. That became our mantra for the rest of the tour, and for years. All right, man. We'd end the fight with, "It's a rough tour for everybody," or even just going to sleep, like we're all on the floor at a Motel 6, like, "Good night, everybody. Rough tour for everybody." It was this classic. And that tour, there was a pattern we started seeing with this tour. Every single venue, metal venues are always at a dive piece of shit, because
oh hell yeah,
who would want a bunch of kids fucking moshing in a nice place? I get it.
None of them.
But there was this pattern we started noticing that, and this is another thing. We had GPS, and this was in like 2009. So the GPS, the cell phones were still shitty. Everyone had the same GPS. It was that gray box thing, and it was the suction cup on your windshield. It was like, that was the first generation. So we had that shit. I couldn't even imagine bands like Iron Maiden on tour with maps. Can you imagine that? No GPS?
Yeah, we would have died.
Dude, we still got lost with the GPS in town, because you have to make it to the city and then find the venue by load-in. That's tricky, man.
Dude, we were in Brooklyn, and I mean, it took us about 2 hours just to find a place to park.
Exactly.
It was crazy.
And you got a huge rig, and you don't know the area. You're scared. You're surrounded. Like, I don't know.
You're hungry.
Fuck you all. I want my mom and dad. I want to go home. But
right.
Fuck. Seeing a pattern with shitty metal venues. If we were kind of lost, we would notice every fucking venue was close to a Martin Luther King Drive or a Martin Luther King Boulevard. Dude.
Oh, dude, I almost got fucking mugged in Memphis. I gotta tell you this story.
Go ahead.
Speaking of crazy tour stories, right? So we're in Memphis, and like Memphis is a notorious shithole, right? Mm-hmm. And I was at the "it's a hard tour for everybody" moment, rough. Like, and I was like, "Listen, I don't want to fucking look at you. I don't want to smell you. I don't want to hear you. Like, I am going away, and I'm going to go find food. Don't fucking call me. I'll be back." Like, just don't leave me the fuck alone.
That walk was just freedom. I'll see you at load-in. Leave me the fuck alone. Go ahead.
Totally. So I'm walking in Memphis, and like I come up on this Planned Parenthood that has to be the size of like 4 Walmarts. It's like the mega center. And, so right across the street, there was this like awesome like soul food place, and like I'm 90% sure that it was Fried Baby, but it was so fucking good. And like I being nice, like got enough food for everybody. And like I wear like those crazy contacts, they go from like yellow to white.
Right.
So I look like a weirdo. And so I'm walking down back to the venue with like, 4 styrofoam containers in bags, just walking down the street. And all of a sudden this truck like skids in front of me, and like 4 guys like jump out.
Oh shit.
I'm already just like livid. I'm about to kill all of my bandmates, and I'm like, make my day, motherfucker.
You're like, nah, this is the perfect time. Do it.
Yeah. So I throw down the food, and I'm like, fucking do it. Like, I'm just like losing my shit. Oh. And they went back. They got back in the car.
They saw the
no, they saw like the amount of crazy that was about to be unleashed on all of them, and like
Dude,
because I just lost it.
Those guys are probably still fucked up. You probably saved many other future girls because they thought they saw the devil in their soul through those lenses.
Oh my god. Yeah, so I get back to the venue and like one of my guitarists like drank a whole fucking liter of whiskey to himself with no food.
Oh.
So it just that night just kept getting dumber.
Dude, yeah, that's classic. Yeah, that's pretty much the case with with metal bars. You are kind of cursed with being treated like fucking shit. You know, the exact opposite of well, I don't know. I guess it's pretty much any musician's life. You never really hear in a venue like, "Hey, this band's really good. We should pay them." Like, but it's even worse for metalheads. And like,
dude, we are the redheaded stepchildren of music.
How so?
Because like everybody fucking beats us and doesn't give a shit. Yeah.
I'm a fucking idiot. Of course we are. No, that's what we are. I don't remember. It was some documentary of somebody. It was a really clever line that we are all the largest group of misfits that still get together at a show, which is kind of a great way to say it. Yeah,
that is very accurate.
Yeah, but that's the pattern we were seeing. It's like, dude, if we felt lost by like midway through the tour, if we felt like lost and we might not make it, if we saw Martin Luther King Boulevard, we were like, okay, we're close. We knew we're on the right track. There was another curse about tour we started noticing, and something that we learned. Take your shits at a Starbucks before the metal venue. Go to a nice bathroom, somewhere public. Do not try to shit comfortably at a metal venue, because man, it got worse and worse.
Happening.
No, dude, like, it went exponentially worse. Like at one point, we show up and we walk. What was it? It was in Compton, LA, for one of our gigs, and we had to shit so bad because we just get off the road and we need to shit. So I go in the bathroom, like, man, when you turn the corner and walk in the men's room, there's no door. The toilet's in front of you, and it's on a lift, like on a stage, looking at the doorway. With no door. So like your crotch is like at eye level. I was like, what the fuck is this? And literally, and imagine the expression of every person, every guy that tries to walk in and wants to piss, this is what they're gonna see. We both have the same expression, like, dude, with our heads to one side. Fucking why? So we were smart, like we would ask my bass player, hey dude, be my door, I'll be your door.
It's not gay if you say good game.
It's just not gay if you say good game. What if it's a good game teabag? But yeah, dude, I'll tell you what though, it got really worse. That the last draw when we decided, dude, Starbucks or Chipotle bathrooms from this point on, was when we walked into a venue having to shit, and literally the toilet was on its side on the floor. Not even functional. I was like, fuck you, metal.
Yeah, it's always, there are definitely some very like sketchy places. Like, we're gonna play this show, we might get killed.
All right,
but it'll be worth it.
Of course, dude. What are you gonna do? Go back home and go to work? Fuck, that's for the birds. All right, well,
exactly.
This will segue nicely to the dungeon, which I've always said it was a metal venue. When I recently just moved back to my hometown in Florida, which shall remain nameless because there's no reason to know the name. Don't look at this town. Don't even look at it. Don't even Google
it's terrible.
But having said that, there are great people here that have found themselves here, which just sometimes happens. And when I moved back here from California, I was just all by myself. I kind of was trying to forget I was a musician even. But
don't we all? That's how it was when I moved here.
Then I discovered this place, the Dungeon Tavern, which Morgan owned, a metal bar. And I was like, what? A metal bar in Panama City, Florida? I got to check this out. And as soon as I walk in, the first time I took a trip into this bar, I'm greeted with a very warm welcome because there's banners hung above the bar, these tapestries, large tapestries, scream bloody gore, Storm of the Lightsbane, And I just walked in like, oh, all right.
I'm home.
I like that. And you were tending bar, and it was like, okay, alrighty, this is already cool. I could just immediately just walk in and have a conversation. You know what it was like? It's like, you ever like talking to somebody for the first time and you go, hey, do you like metal? And then their answer crushes you because they go, yeah, I love metal, like Slipknot. And you're like, okay,
stop.
That's like when a guy hears a girl say, I have a boyfriend. Suddenly you're like, oh, we can never.
Well, no, okay, all right. So I'm going to give you a thing. Like, when you're in a town like this, when you walk into a metal bar, it's like taking your bra off at the end of a long day.
Yes.
Which there's like no better feeling, you know, like, because it's just like, fuck, this has sucked. And then it's like, oh shit, there's weirdos like me.
Exactly. And dude, it was such a great place to hang, man. And we all miss it. But in this small shithole town, you brought some metal giants, some legends that I never
honestly, like, I still don't know how I pulled that out of my ass. You know, like, I just, you know, you get to a certain level of determined, and it's like, I was just sort of like, I don't care if nobody else likes it. Like, I'm bringing that here. I want that. And,
well, you did it. And I've got to tell this one quick story. I'm at the dungeon one night, and you're attending bar, and I'm over by the jukebox talking to our friend Alec, and I don't know how it came up in conversation, but suddenly bass players was brought up, and then Alec dropped a pretty big name. He talks Victor Wooten, and I'm like, oh fuck yeah, dude, blah blah blah, and then you overhear me or something because you're talking with someone else, and you hear me, I'm talking to Alec, I'm like, blah 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 blah, greatest bass player that ever lived. Blah, 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 blah. And then you interrupt us and go, Jocko? And I was like, at first I was like, oh shit. And I knew you were a bass player, but I didn't know it was like that. And then I was like, yeah, I was just trying to tell Alec about the song Portrait of Tracy. And then you held up one finger as if to say, 1 second. You walked from behind the bar, you walked to the jukebox, made a selection, and before I knew it, ringing in the dungeon metal bar is the song Portrait of Tracy by Jaco Pastorius. And right there, I said to you, dude, you just got 1 million bass player points.
Dude, I remember that night. That was so fun. Like, you looked like a deer in the headlights when I said Jaco. Like, you were like, dude, what the fuck?
In a jukebox, in a bar, let alone a metal bar. It was amazing. So you certainly solidified your fucking name in the scrolls of fucking bass player archives as far as I'm concerned. But please, describe to us what it was like to book Deicide and what was it like when they arrived?
Dude, so, I got it through a friend of mine who I had played a show of his, and we got to share the stage with Marduk.
Wow.
And like, that was like probably one of the best nights of my life. But I got to talking with the promoter and I was like, look, like, I have a bar up in Panama City. Like, how do you do this?
Right.
And he was like, oh, you're in Panama City. And so he was just like,
you got this through a connection through a show while you're on tour.
Yeah. And he was like, so he would send me just like ridiculous shit. Like, he's like, yeah, I got Deicide wanting the show there next month. And I was like, excuse me, what? Like, and I was just, you know, like, freaking mind blown. And so this is like the biggest thing that we had ever had up to that point. You know, so it was just as in the dungeon.
As in the town.
So, like, so, you know, it was just like, I found out that it had been promoted on like Pandora, like Panama City was on their tour shirt and everything. Like, yes. I was just like, what the fuck? Like, this is crazy. So they get there, you know, it's been there all day. Like, the phone has been going off the hook, like, all day. Like, is there still Deicide tickets? Like, where can I get them? Like, just people like losing their mind over this show.
Well, yeah.
So they get there, and Glenn Benton drove separately from everybody else, and he was wearing a t-shirt.
He's like, I don't want to fucking smell. I can tell which smell is. I can tell which smell is which instrument. Fuck you all.
So he's wearing these like dingy ass like sweatpants, and he has this shirt on that it's a cat taco. It's because like the weirdest fucking shit.
Because taco cat spelled backwards is taco cat.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So he's wearing a shirt with that on it, and I'm just like, I'm just sitting there like drooling, like, I'm sorry, this is fucking Glenn Benton.
I love how you just blew me off. You're like, whatever. yeah. Whatever. Oh yeah, I know. All right, so it was perfect. It's beautiful. Glenn Benton in front of you.
Yeah, Glenn Benton is there, right? And I'm just like, holy shit, like this is real.
Yeah.
And then the shit hits the fan. You know, he was on the phone with his girlfriend or whatever, I don't know if he's married. I don't pay attention to that. You know, it's not like I'm trying to bone him.
He's known to be a dick, but what happened? Go ahead.
He's known to be a dick. And this was the greatest compliment I ever got about the dungeon, and it was from Glenn Benton himself.
Wow.
And he said, "This place is smaller than a newborn's asshole." So
Glenn Benton arrives in Panama City is not too thrilled.
Yeah, and then one of the guys that they were paying, he was like a brand new guitarist with them, and I guess like during the time that I had already like given them their catering money and like the weird shit that they asked for.
Sure.
This guitarist who like they had just like signed on for this tour. What found out
shit that they asked for? Newborn baby assholes.
They wanted like a certain amount of towels and like a weird number of waters.
Like, we want 666. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry.
No, it wasn't even like it was like they wanted 11 towels.
And also said he wanted all the green M&Ms in one champagne glass and the brown M&Ms. Yeah. Right. Let's continue the story. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so the guitarist that they had just signed on found out how much everybody else was making per show.
Oh shit.
Yeah. And he was like, well, fuck you guys. And like, it just turned into like this huge band fight. And I was like, is there anything I can do? And Glenn just goes, well, I don't even know if we're going to fucking play this show. At that point, like, fucking people are...
He just wanted somebody to go. He wanted you, probably, to go, because you're the owner. Oh, can we get you some green and brown M&Ms? Maybe a cookie and a cup. Can we get Glenn? You know, I'll be all right. I'll be fine.
I don't know, but... At that moment, like, the whole veil of being, like, stoked about Deicide and, like, stoked that all these people were coming just turned into, like, everybody's gonna think I'm a fucking liar.
Oh, fuck.
You know, like, I was, like, freaking out because, like, oh, no, you know, what do I say? What do you say? Like, oh, no, Deicide isn't showing up. And they're gonna everybody would just be, like, burn the fucking place down.
Fuck me, I'm going back to what really matters, my life in Panama City. Oh, well.
Yeah, I mean, eventually they got over it and played.
So how did it feel that when they first took the stage? Oh, wait, you played that night, right?
Yeah, I did.
How did that feel?
Oh my god, dude, it was amazing.
That's fucking awesome.
It was so cool.
For Deicide in your bar.
Yeah, that's like some bucket list shit.
No doubt. Some fucking I'm not going to make the pun. I stopped myself. No dad jokes.
Yes, dad jokes.
No. There was also another show that happened there, if we can move on. And when I saw this booked, it just fucking floored me. Insomnium.
You know what's really funny?
What?
I almost didn't book them but I booked them for Alec.
Oh, dude, thank you, Alec. And thank you, Morgan. But thank you mostly, Alec. Like, holy shit, dude. Like, he brought... So he gets the cred for bringing Insomnium to my hometown. Yeah. That's huge, dude. That's huge. We're gonna get Alec on the show too. He's gonna do he's gonna show up one of these days on an episode for sure. But man, that's fucking enormous. Alec talked me into going to the show because I was a broke ass musician at that point, had no money.
Shit, aren't we all?
Yeah. So I was bitching, but he's like, dude. He just gave me a look. He didn't have to say much. I was like, I don't know if I can afford it. And he's just like, bitch, like that kind of look. And I'm like, you're right.
I've gotten that look from him many a time.
So it was incredible, man. I got to meet them too, because ironically enough, when I first moved back here to Panama City, the night before I got on the plane to leave California forever I spent that night with my friend Jem seeing Insomnium live open for Dark Tranquility in San Francisco.
No shit.
And that was the first time I got to see him live, so I knew it was going to be great. But then seeing him up close and personal in the dungeon in my hometown, I think I even told you, I cried a little. I had some tears. And you were like,
oh, dude, that makes me so happy.
No, you called me out. You're like, echoed through the bar. Really? You cried? No, it was good, dude. It was sentimental. I got to meet him. I was really thankful to see that. And it was amazing, dude, that they were there. But I've got to ask you this now. This is something that I've been wondering because there was this video circulating. Now, I didn't ask about this while the bar was still open because I am not a drama guy. I did not want to perpetuate any drama. Not that it even really matters. But
God.
Now I've got to ask because there was this video of this bar fight that broke out. And the way the bar fight ends, you can see it clear in the video. These guys are at the bar stool next to each other, just blah, his fists start flying, and the way the fight ends is you see Morgan grab a guy and choke him out. And this video was all out, and I watched, I was like, oh shit. And I never bothered asking, what the fuck happened? How did that start? And what the fuck? Please get me. I gotta know.
So, do you remember Trevor, the kid that would book all the hardcore shows?
No, I don't. But you don't even have to finish the story. No, I'm just kidding.
Yep, pretty much. So, there was this one guy, like, he was sort of like an old school punk kind of guy that got a job,
Right.
But he was very much an old school punker. They got into the subject of Black Lives Matter. They're too white as can be. Yeah, like fucking pasty white. Like I'm less white than them, and I'm like super white.
This is better than I could have ever imagined. Go ahead.
Oh my god! It wasn't even like a full-on debate. What makes this funny is it wasn't like the old school punker was not like, fuck Black Lives Matter. What he said, he did not say that at all. What he said was like, man, they're just kind of doing some shitty things right now. And like, the other guy took that as, this guy's a racist asshole. Punch him. It's like, you can't make that shit up. But you know what? Like, I felt, after that, it's like, once you get that nice little like surge of adrenaline, you feel great for like the rest of the week.
Dude, you did not hesitate on that video. I was like, okay, Morgan could beat my ass from what I just witnessed. There was you were just like, maybe, I don't know. Now knowing the full story, maybe you just couldn't wait to choke that. I don't know. I don't know the guy. He's probably a good guy. That's a funny ass story though. Jesus.
He's like one of those dudes that, like I said, he's super white. He doesn't like do anything like, and he's a good kid. Like, I liked him enough to let him book at the dungeon.
Right.
But like, he's like one of those like fuck the police kids, and just one of those. And it's really funny to me how that whole thing went down.
I honestly, without getting into a whole other thing, maybe, we'll save these rants for future episodes, but I feel bad for the youth today because you know what? Honestly, who among us as adults, if given the chance, would not go back in time to our 18-year-old selves, slap the shit out of ourselves, and go,
Oh, God, yeah.
Just be quiet and listen. You don't know shit yet. You think you know everything, but you don't. Every one of us would. But the unfortunate thing for young people today, there's recording devices saying their dumb shit. They got to go back. Dude, imagine this. Our parents used to, they look at their old photos and bell bottoms and go, oh, I can't believe you used to wear that. 30-year-old men will grow up one day and go, I can't believe I was a furry. That's so much worse than bell bottoms.
Oh, yeah. Oh, dude. I saw like one of our local, like it's one of like my favorite like retro video game stores. It's in Bayou George, and like they were doing like stuff for Halloween, and I just saw in there today that Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf were handing out candy, but that Big Bad Wolf was definitely like a furry.
Oh,
that wasn't something that you bought at the store.
No,
like
it wasn't a big.
It was
bad
some
wolf.
weird shit. It was some weird shit.
It wasn't a big bad wolf. It was a little scared cuckold. All right. Oh, there's one more thing I've got to bring up. In the decor, like I've already mentioned, beautiful tapestries, death, scream, bloody gore, dissection over here. You definitely had the place done right. Built your own stage with your amazing crew that you had working there. And one of the highlights were signs that you hand painted on the wall that I've got to read a couple. We're going to show them on the video as well, but for people that might be driving or at work that can't look, I'll just go ahead and read them too. We'll go through one at a time. These things should go viral. These are like memes that like existed as signs in your metal bar. So we'll start with the first one. This first sign that she wrote, it says, guitarists are respectfully asked to leave after the pizza has been purchased from them. Signed the Dungeon Tavern. Boy, that's
dude. I did all of those in a night, and I was like on a roll. I was laughing like so hard.
The truth, it's the whole funny because it's true. Because not me, I was not that guitarist, but we had two guitarists in the band, and one of them had money. I was not that one. There were many nights that we had food because of our second guitarist, so that shit was true. All right, we'll move on to the next sign here, which says, due to reoccurring circumstances we prefer not to speak of, egocentric vocalist will be given a pacifier.
Oh my God. You know what? There's one band that really inspired that.
What band?
September Morning.
Don't name it. Never mind. I don't want to incriminate you.
Okay.
Keep your story.
Well, that band was like the fucking worst to work with ever. And they just like totally, she needed a pacifier.
It happens. All right. So next one. Do not feed the sound guys. Signed the Dungeon Tavern.
They got so upset about that.
Oh my God. That's beautiful though. That sign reminds me of something that I learned later in my career that I wish I knew earlier. Make friends with the sound guy.
Oh yeah, he makes or breaks like how shitty you sound that night.
Dude, I wish I had known that or someone had told me that, but I really learned that. Like I would, before the show, I would be because they're all alone. No one's talking to them. I would walk up, hey man, what's your name? Shake his hand. Have a conversation, not about your band. Trust me.
Oh, yeah.
Because I swear to God, anytime you have feedback, you'll have suddenly feedback that will cut someone's face off like a laser, and he'll be at the bar flirting with a goddamn bartender or something. So make friends with the sound guy.
No, you gotta treat the sound guys good. Don't feed them though.
No. They must not be distracted. All right, next sign. Bands that are found with their bassist locked in the van are responsible for any and all locksmith expenses. Signed, Dungeon Tavern.
That one was based off a Hard Times article where it basically looked like one of those animal rights campaigns for people leaving their dogs in the car.
Wow, dude, it's so goddamn perfect. My God. All right. And lastly, my favorite of all signs: all drummers must be accompanied by an adult. Signed, the Dungeon Tavern. Fucking amazing. That will move along nicely to. And by the way, this was great, Morgan. You are such an excellent guest, really.
Oh, dude, I've had so much fun.
One thing that is for sure, I've always admired your accomplishments, especially in a dead-end town like this. But it's clear, wherever you are, you're a pursuer of your dreams, and you make them happen.
Well, thank you, man. I really, really appreciate that.
Definitely. And we're going to get into how we always wrap up each episode of listener reviews and recommendations. But first, I want to give everybody a little snippet of your band, Lustravi. And this is going to be Call to the Blackened Veils. So check this out. This is Morgan's black metal band when she is playing bass and vocals.
I got a really good vocal recording on that song because one of my bandmates fucked up the click track really bad, and I was just fucking livid. So it translated. I was like about to kill everybody, but it turned out to be a really good vocal recording.
Oh, that sounds great. I gotta say, I love your vocals. You have
thank you, man.
You have a Shoulder-esque, creaturous, but it's creature, like high-end creaturous, but still with power. It really, and me and my old bandmate Nate, we are like, our favorite sound ever in death metal screams is Chuck Schuldner's Sounds of Perseverance when he got real high-end. And I feel that's the thing we've always aspired for that neither of us can do, but I feel you get closer, and I really admire your vocals. Really, it's something I've always wished I could do. Dude,
thank you so much. Honestly, like, Sound of Perseverance is one of my favorite albums of all time, and obviously Chuck is God, so thank you. Absolutely. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. And we're going to move on to the reviews, but really quick before that, I've got to talk about Lords of Chaos, the movie. We're not even going to make this a huge segment except to say I heard the movie was actually good, Lords of Chaos. I remember linking it to you when the preview came out, disgusted. And I think I linked it to you, and I was like, look at this travesty. And then after that, I went ... I'm so sorry I linked this to you. Like, I regret even
What was so weird is that, like, the commercial, they made it look like a teenage summer comedy, like, romance thing.
That's what you said. Like, you said, why are they making this a rom-com? And I'm like, dude, first of all, Macaulay Culkin's brother's playing dead. That alone. Like,
you know what? I watched it, though.
And you did watch it.
I did. And
give us a review.
You know, like, there was some stuff that was inaccurate. Like, Euronymous did not have a girlfriend. And, like, there was just some other shit that was, like, not totally factual to what happened. Sure. But overall, it wasn't a bad movie. And I know I'll probably get crucified for it, but I didn't hate it.
No, you know, that's why I brought it up, because I was ready to just fucking never pay any mind, laugh at
the commercial was dumb.
Right, but what I heard was that it was good, even from Nate, my old bandmate I was talking about. He's like, you know what? It actually was good. And I asked about it recently. He's like, it wasn't nothing that memorable, but it wasn't like as awful as I would thought. I'm like, holy shit, I should check it out.
Kind of cracked me up because, like, back to dudes in black metal that really have nothing better to do. Like, they got so upset about it. And, I wanted to give it a shot. I wanted to give it a fair shot.
Sure.
And it wasn't as shitty as I thought it was going to be. So I'm not going to complain.
I got to watch it now for sure. And I did. I checked out an interview with the last living member of Mayhem, original Mayhem lineup, Necro. This is what I learned from that guy. I think pretty much the only interesting band members of that band are dead. Because every time I listen to that guy talk, it's so fucking boring. He's just like, yes, they have a photo of my best friend.
Yeah.
I'm done with you, bro. So I'm going to check the movie out. But
you should.
So let's move on. But all right, we have a couple albums to review. But again, I've got to put a little speed bump in here. But before we do that, I have got to play a little bit of what Morgan sent me.
Oh, no.
This shit. Because our podcast is a little new, so I was trying to explain when Morgan agreed to be a guest how we end it. And I'm like, okay, we usually review a couple albums, one of your choice, one of a listener. And your response is beautiful. She messaged me back, are you about to send me some breakdowns? And I was like, oh, Jesus. All right, well, I promise not this time. But then she goes, well, it can't be any worse than this, and sends me this, which I guess, even though we laughed at it, we may as well give them a decent plug since we're playing it. This is from the band The Saving.
I'm gonna digress here for just 1 second, and I will never apologize for this. You can call it a woman's right, or you can call it a woman's choice, all you want, but the fact will still remain. Abortion is murder, and every tongue in support will be an accomplice of such a horrid crime is murder, and every tongue in support will be an accomplice of such a horrid crime is murder. Who are you to say who is healthy enough is to be worthy to live?
This has got to be in my top 5 laughs of all time.
Oh, dude, it has to be like single-handedly the like worst. There's a lot of bad metalcore in the world, and like that whole genre can go jump off a cliff, in my opinion. But that song like leads the fucking charge, dude. Like.
Dude, that shit, you sent it to me, and when it first started, before the breakdown, I'm listening, I'm like, what is this? Is this a new genre? Pizza metal? Like, what are these kids having a blast or what? Right on, I had a sleepover with some instruments. But then that fucking break, and Morgan kept typing, wait for it. And dude, with that breakdown hit, I'm like, okay, this is going on the episode. This is... But you know what?
Oh, man.
I'm going to trash it. If this is your thing, go check them out. They're called The Saving. So,
I'm definitely going to trash it, but okay.
Hey, I don't even care what side you lean on politically or on that subject. I'll just say I protest using it in a song. I'll just say it.
Like randomly, it is so random, like to the rest of those lyrics. So, like,
that's right. No, you're right. The whole
it's like stapled on there. Like, yeah, that's good.
It's shoehorned in. They don't even talk about that. They're just like, dude, for the breakdown, let's see. I think you said it. Let's just see what we can make the entire country cringe at the same time.
Even people that like are believe, that way. I don't think that they would like it either.
Hey, convert them. Speaking of conversion, Keith, if you're listening, I think we might just have converted Morgan, of all people, from Satanism to Christianity because I showed her X-Toll. So she almost threw up. X-Toll, though.
But, there's Ancestor, too.
Yeah, she showed me some shit.
Oh, my God.
That was that was like fucking Sounds of Perseverance meets Dissection.
I'm so conflicted on it because, you know, obviously, like, I just don't think that Christian black metal is or should be a thing. Like, I don't acknowledge it, you know?
That should be, we're gonna pencil that in for the next time you jump on an episode, white metal versus black metal. That's a whole fun conversation.
Oh shit, dude. I could go on all day.
All right, but let's jump into the album recommendations and reviews, and this is going to come from our guest here, Morgan. We'll do your first, and then we'll do the listeners next. She recommended Engulfed in Blackness.
Yes. Okay. So Engulfed in Blackness is one of those bands that when I first saw them, like my jaw literally hit the floor. Like, they're just incredibly, incredibly tight. And Jessica, their vocalist, has like more demonic energy and uses it more fluently than anyone I've ever seen on stage. Brandon and Dave, their guitarists, work really, really well together. And I mean, it's just, they're just really fucking good. And, you know, one thing I have to say is like, I don't like when female fronted bands like use it as like a trope. Right. And they're not one of those people. Like, if you listen to Unspeakable Torment, like, Jess has like the fucking sickest vocals ever. And it's strong and it's powerful, and like you would never fucking know that she's a babe.
Right.
Unspeakable Torment is like their latest one. It's, to me, it's like one of the best, if not the best, modern death metal that's out today. It's incredibly strong, it's fast, it's punishing, and it's totally relentless. I'm also sort of an album art snob. Their art was done by Mark Cooper, who just does like amazing work, like ridiculously amazing work. So overall, if you don't like Unspeakable Torment, you're both a moron and a poser. So that's it.
That was actually a great pick. Engulfed in Blackness, Unspeakable Torment. This album is, if you're a fan of like classic death metal, and it's really refreshing to hear that's still happening, that there are people that are still passionate about making that sound. But this is sort of classic death metal meets black metal, I feel like, right?
I would say that like there is definitely like demonic influence on it. And I really appreciate that. They've just always been.
Go ahead.
What's that?
Well, I'm hearing a very classic death metal tone, like the Floridian thing. Occasionally, death, leprosy, spiritual healing vibe comes. You know,
oh yeah,
and
yeah, definitely.
Production-wise too, and that was really nice. Also, I love the word that you used. It's perfect for it. Relentless. There's really nowhere to run. They are fucking brutal from start to finish. It's just
fuck yeah.
It doesn't let up, and that I very much respect. The vocals, absolutely great, because I believe there's two people sing, right? Because it's her on highs. Oh, it's just her lows too?
Yep.
God damn. Oh man,
Yeah, it's just
Whole new
fucking
respect now.
nasty. Yeah.
'Cause I thought like one of the guitarists did too, but damn,
Uh-uh.
she's badass. I really
Yeah.
liked that. It was a good compliment of like spiritual healing or leprosy death meets Spawn of Possession. So
Yeah.
it's like Spawn of Possession vocals coming in with this old death leprosy sound. And it was really, really respected hearing this still happening in 2018. So props to these guys. It's relentless.
You know what I love about that album too? Like that the very first, like the intro track, that's actual footage of an exorcism.
Wow.
And
Nice.
yeah, it's just fucking cool. Like it's a really great album. They're selling it through Bandcamp where you can pick up a physical copy. And I highly, highly recommend supporting this band.
Excellent. So definitely check them out. And so that will move us to the listener recommendation, which was homework for both me and Morgan. And this was recommended by Mauricio, and that was Puscifer, the album Money Shot. What'd you
Okay.
think?
So I have a really weird love for A Perfect Circle.
Cool.
But this is like the diet version of it.
Sure.
And like I mean I get it, like Maynard James, he's like a super artistic guy. But it really reminds me of when, you know, this is especially true in like local metal scenes where, you know, there's that one band that's like sort of the big band in the scene, and then all the members start making like 30 different side projects with each other.
Sure.
And it just sort of like it gives me that vibe. So I don't get the artwork. I really like good artwork, you know, and I just don't understand it. And another thing, I just don't get how this isn't another A Perfect Circle album. There are parts that I do like though. So I figured I would say what I don't like and then go into what I do like.
Perfect. Sorry.
So hey, there are some parts that have like a female vocalist, and it has a very like folky vibe to it, and it really reminds me of this one chick I listen to a lot called Ivor. And it's very like it has that vibe like a lot. The ambient moments in that album are really great, as you would expect them to be from Maynard, and you know, his voice also sounds good. You know, it's his typical, you know, very cold and almost has like a certain like air of humility to it.
Right.
But you know, it's not a dumpster fire. Me personally, I would rather listen to A Perfect Circle or Tool.
I get that.
But this wasn't terrible.
Yeah, that's a very fair review. Absolutely. Perfect Circle. You know, I think maybe I don't know. I'm going to assume, but I guess the quick answer, Maynard loves to work, and Tool takes forever, that goes without saying. Perfect Circle, they even probably had their limits. So someone else approached him and he made something. To explain the artwork, which I agree, it's certainly not, I mean, what the fuck? But as I kind of researched it, it started as a joke band anyway. And particularly
Really?
Yeah, it was like a joke because, Maynard's always had that comedic side, and he's always had those secret songs on the albums and here and there, some hokey shit. Like one time I pissed on his lighter or whatever on Opiate, So we always had the quirky side of Maynard. But the thing is, I guess what happened is what developed was this album, Puscifer Money Shot, where they finally said, you know what, let's make something. We can do this and make it serious. I do get what you mean about kind of a watered down Perfect Circle because they're using like 8-bit keyboard synths, which you're either a fan of it or you're not.
Right.
I do like the contrast of the female vocals with Maynard. Also, she should thank her goddamn lucky stars that she's anything. I mean, wow. There's a term in acting called second banana. Have you ever heard the term?
No, I haven't, but I understand where you're going with that. Because, it's not, her voice isn't, like, mind-blowing.
No, it's very suitable to be...
Yeah, it fits, though.
It fits and it's under... But, it sounds nice when they harmonize, and I bet Maynard likes that. Because, we all as musicians, we grow, and you got to respect the guy for that. You're going to grow into other things. You can't be just pigeonholed in one musical thing. That's why you play piano and cello. You're well versed, not just metal. So he went with this. I gotta say though, I was patient with it, and the last song on the album, Autumn, is fucking incredible. It's really good. That's the one that really shines for me. It's got some really amazing moments, but I can kind of tell while I'm listening to this. I mean, basically, if you haven't heard Puscifer before, first of all, go check them out if you like Maynard or Tool at all. Secondly, the best or easiest way I could describe them is if Maynard was dipped in 9 Inch Nails.
Yeah, and that's like sort of what like a Perfect Circle was for me, where it was just like it was Maynard in 9 Inch Nails. And I feel like for me, I don't know, it just sort of lacks like...
I see what you mean. They're like a B-side. They're like a B-side on a vinyl of a Perfect Circle.
Yeah, exactly.
I get that. They're like bonus tracks of a Perfect Circle, but they're still good. It's still nice. But I will say the very last track on the album is really nice, but it also kind of explained to me while I was listening to it. Some people had complaints, including me, and I wouldn't even call them complaints as much as sort of critiques that on the new Tool album, Maynard is a little bit asleep at the wheel. And maybe that's because that's where Puscifer put him, where he's at musically. He never screams like he used to. He doesn't really project. There is no Maynard explosion crescendo.
Yeah. And that's another thing that kind of bothered me about this album is that like I feel like it sort of lacked that edge and that aggression that there's normally like some of that somewhere, right. And
I feel Puscifer may have kind of put him to sleep at the wheel because of what he's. But you know what? If that's where his fucking music took him, that's what happened.
Then let it go, yeah.
Exactly, and it's a variety if nothing else. But I certainly liked this album versus other Puscifer stuff.
Sure, yeah, definitely.
And thanks for the recommendation, Mauricio. And everybody, please remember to keep the recommendations coming. We need to fill that list back up because we will review them. Morgan, this was fucking awesome. Thank you so much.
Dude, I had so much fun. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
You're going to be back. And remember to please check out her band, Lustravi. And what's your new band called?
Demonolatress.
So keep a lookout for them very soon. And also Morgan very soon on Another Rough City. Morgan, thank you.
Dude, thank you so much. Like, this has been great.